Sometimes you never know till you play. Isn't it pretty out here today? Blue sky, kind of quiet. No tornadoes or hurricanes, just heat, a lot of it. Anyway, this is the gate to my house and my shop. Shop's back over there beside it. In fact, that gate Don and I made a couple years ago, and I'll put a link to the series on what we did to make it. I don't make gates anymore. I automate them all the time. I usually put on these little keypad systems here. Meet Stuart. We gave Stuart an umbrella. Don, first thing he picked up on was it was a rainbow umbrella. Always negative. Anyway, this is a Watchman 450. It's made by Cellgate. I install a lot of this type of product. It's probably the best access system there is. I've put on all over Texas, New Mexico. Heck, I even paid me to go to Georgia last year. Anyway, this is a 450 that I have here on my house. You can push the button and it'll dial up to 3 cell phones at one time, and we can answer it from anywhere we're connected to the internet. It's got an infrared camera. You give everybody their own code, and every time they enter a code, they have their picture taken. And there's also a camera over there on the fence post that takes a picture of their vehicle and their license plate. They're handy. They're not cheap, guys. They're quality made, and they're not cheap. But I'm the #1 dealer in the country. I put in more of these and sell more of these than anyone. So I highly like them. So anyway, that's not what I was going to show you about today. Oh, you get packages out in the country. People take them away, steal them from you. I put in this Joe box there, welded it onto some posts in the ground, and a sneaky little thing I did was I put a magnetic sensor in that box, one that's similar to this one over here. That magnetic sensor is tied into that Watchman, so anytime that box is opened, I get a notice, a text message or a phone call if I wanted one. And I can sit there and snap pictures from all the cameras and see who's messing with my postal service. I like my little Texas. My wife and I fought over this. God, did we fight. I wanted to put it lit at night, and so I even drilled a little hole where we live. And you can't see it, but this is offset by 1 inch. And back there are some LEDs. I took some old solar-powered yard lights from Lowe's, took them apart, took all the LEDs out, and I mounted the solar panels back here. They got batteries. They last all night. And no wires to break as the gate moves. But that's not the thing we're here today for. This is. Now this is a LiftMaster arm. It's an LA500, and there's its control box over there. That sensor there tells me when the gate's open or closed. If somebody cuts the wire, it automatically tells me it's open. So this right here is the object of my problem. That is a photo beam that shoots over to that side where that reflector is. And you have to line these things up, and sometimes they're finicky. And around here, the ground gets so many cracks. We haven't had rain in at least a month. This is the ground. Doesn't look too good, does it? It goes all the way down. That first 3 inches is just rock hard. And anyway, a lot of times these posts move, or The biggest number one problem is yard men will come and they'll put a trash bag over it, or a hat, or a rag, or they'll even grab it and move it, and they never get it lined up again. This is the number one cause I found that a gate will not close. That sensor. Now, when they first mandated this in 2016, all the companies had to really hurry up and scramble to get a system put together. The first ones came out like this and were a pain in my neck for about a year. When you have humidity or rain or fog or even heavy dust, they would just stop working because they have to power through all that to that reflector and back. I went to Fence Tech and I talked to the people there and said, "You guys have made my life a living hell." And he says, "We understand. We're trying to do something about it." So I told him about a little trick I used to use when I used astronomy telescopes all night. Your eyepieces would fog up and you have to get a hairdryer to dry them off. Well, I found some NiCad wire that goes in refrigerators for the defrost cycle. And I found if you put a couple wraps around an eyepiece and run like 9 volts through it, it kept your eyepiece really nice and warm. No fog would grow and it didn't distort your vision. So I told him about that. And about a year and a half later, all these started coming with a heater. Now, it doesn't do you any good if you only have solar power because it uses so much power to run your batteries down. But if you have electricity and the guy installing it is not an idiot and knows to hook up the heater wires, it works pretty well. But back to the problem of not opening and having to go check a gate out, and I have to realign it. And sometimes it's a pain in the butt. So I've thought of a little tool I'm going to make to help me. Now, if you notice down here, I don't know if you can see right now. Let's see if we can get you. There's a blue light right here. Well, if you block the cell, it goes to red. I need some way to make that easy to line up all the time or check one without getting the tools out and running around and unscrewing it and playing with it. So what I came up with is a laser. And now we're going to adapt one to fit the surface of this and shoot over there with a red dot so I can see what's going on. Let's go back in the shop and we'll get started.
Access granted.
The sexy English voice is no extra charge on a cell gate. And no, I can't put a man's voice on it. I wish I could. Here we go. Well, you might be wondering what you're looking at. This is a 55-gallon drum of hydraulic number 68 oil for my planer. I started having a roof leak and it moved on me and it started running right into the dadgum oil on the planer table. So now all the hydraulic fluid on the planer is contaminated with water and I got to do something about it. So I'm going to have to suck everything out. I don't know if I can save that old oil. I might try the wick method where you put a cotton rope in it and put it into another drum and let it filter through that. Don't even know if it's worth doing. I just went and bought me some new oil. It's 55 gallons and I got another 10 in the shop, so I've got enough to do a complete oil change. That's an empty barrel. Now the big thing was my dealer at Shell wanted $1,100 for that drum. I got to looking on the internet and I found this Sinopec company, if that's how you pronounce it. That was $468 including tax. They have other things like that was a drum of 530 engine oil, so look them up. It might save you some money. Well, as you can see, I moved in here where it's cooler. Not much cooler. The Air conditioners have a hard time during the summer when it's 105 outside. But I moved in here so I could show you what my idea is to make the tool to align the gate photo beam sensors easier. Now, this is one of the photo sensors. This is the active one. The other side's a reflector. And basically they have a ball mount here, and you can twist them and do all kinds of things. So sometimes when you're shooting 20 feet across a gate opening, it's kind of hard to do it. And sometimes you fight with it. In the old days, a lot of these didn't get installed. You could take the reflector or a pair of them in the older days and put them together and tape them up. You wouldn't believe how many I find stuffed into operator boxes because they were too damn lazy to put them in. The ones like this come with a flat reflector, and people would just take the reflector and tape up. Well, I guess the government got onto them, and they made it now to where that reflector has to be about 3 or 4 feet away, and so you can't do that anymore. And it kind of makes it easier to, unless you know that, it's harder to tell if the thing's working, but you got to be at least 3 or 4 foot away. Anyway, my little idea is to take a laser beam. My idea is to take a laser beam, mount it or hold it onto this face so I can point it at that reflector easier. And it should be simple, right? After all, laser beams are cheap anymore. In fact, this is the one I found on Amazon. It's Piney. It mounts on a gun. It comes with a little mount. And to tell the truth, you could just leave this little mount like this, turn it on, then hold this up to it and be done with it. But what's the fun of having a machine shop if you can't improve on things? So that's what I'm going to do. In fact, I don't think this would be very accurate. So what I'm going to do, be careful, this has got a, you see that over, laser beam dot. Don't put it in your eye. Put your eye out. I took it apart and I found that this barrel in this area right here is the smallest diameter. This knurled, when they knurled it, made it larger than this. And in a way that's kind of going to work to my favor. This one has 3 or 2 set screws in a post that allow you to line that beam up. So theoretically, once I get it done, if it doesn't line up perfectly, I could adjust that, but I think it's going to be close enough. So what my idea was, take a piece of aluminum scrap that I have. This is right at 2-inch diameter. And I'm going to make a hole in the center of it so that this barrel will slide into and let it get captured. And this on the end right there is a button that turns it on. And all of this little very tip end is slightly larger than the barrel diameter. So I'm going to make a recess so that once it's in there, it sits inside the back. So when you put it on there, you won't turn it off and on, and it'll sit level on the face of this. Sometimes I don't talk right, so I made a little diagram to help you. That's what we're going to make. It's going to be round, 2-inch diameter here. The barrel's going to be 1 inch. It's going to be reamed for a 9/16, and it's going to have a little cavity here that this will allow to keep that button protected. So hopefully it'll work. Out of the hundreds of reamers I had, I didn't even have a 9/16 reamer. So I ran down to our local tooling store and bought a new one. Unfortunately, all they had in stock was from China, But this one is an adjustable reamer. So you screw this Allen screw down in there, and that expands the reamer so you can make it a tighter, perfect fit. Like $30. And of course, I didn't have the drill bit for it either. Don't even remember what it was, but it was a weird size one. Oh, I got it over here. This was a 35/64. And all they had it in was an S&D, but we ought to be in good shape. Let's go to Bob, make it work. Well, this is Bob for those of you that don't know. Bob is a chucker lathe. It doesn't have a tailstock. It's got a rotary tool carousel that you can load up to 8 different tools on. And all my life I've fought having to change tools on a lot of repetitive items. These are great. Before I get going, I want to shout out to one special person. His name is Richard Morton. Now, I don't know who Richard Morton is, but he holds the distinction of being the one and only member of my channel. Thank you, Richard. I quietly enabled it about 2.5, 3 months ago, and I didn't say anything about it. And Richard found it and started a little $2 donation to keep the lights on. Thanks, Richard. Can you see okay, guys? I've got a 3-jaw chuck set up on Bob, and this is just a piece of scrap aluminum. Usually when aluminum like that, I buy in 12-foot lengths. It's cheaper. And then usually I'll take it, if I'm making something, I'll cut it off with more than necessary to hold it in the chuck, so that I can hold it well. And then when I cut it off, I don't have a bunch of little scraps like that. I've got something useful to make other things. Just going to slide this out. Now Bob doesn't have a tailstock. So when you go to drill things, you got to set it up different. You don't have an automatic centered way to line this point and this point up. What we do have over here is, well, you can probably see it. Right down here is a stop I can adjust. And before we started, I aligned a 1/2-inch dial in this with a 1/2-inch collet and got it to where when I turn this up against that stop, this point is on center. That's about one of the only things you have to do. All right, what we're going to do first is, well, we're going to see if I got any of these bits that will work well for what we're going to do, which is just basically bring that down. You know, the outer dimensions are not critical. The only critical dimensions on this thing is length and the size of the bore. It could be sloppy, but I don't want it to be. I want it to be where the barrel of the laser slides right in. That way I don't have to put 2 or 3 alignment set screws in it to help keep it centered. I figure I'll use the alignment set screws that they built into that cylinder. All right, Bob has very simple controls. You can watch along. Here, you want to watch closer? I'm not going to put down the guard because you can't see it. All right, let's see. Let's go into gear 2 and go forward. hole built into it. Over here's the drive for Bob. It's electric, left, right. I want to go left, and this is the speed. It's an electric drive. It's not geared. And use clutches just like on everything else. That'll suffice right there. Now we're going to bring this, mark it off into its length, which, according to my handy dandy drawing, overall length is 1.5 inches. And once again, that doesn't have to be critical. And this will be the length of the recess part here. 1.125 is from here to here. And then 3.6 something is the other part. May not add up. I did it in a hurry. Now I'm going to see if I can make a little deeper cut and see if I can break the chips better. Touch off. It's 35 off each side. We're going to run it a little faster. See what goes. Okay. Peels it off like a ribbon. That's dangerous. You can see here, comes off like little saw teeth. Well, see it there? That'll cut your hand to pieces. You're no good for that. That balled it up. It's taking 85 thousandths cut there. Now on Bob, that 85 thousandths is off the total diameter. So it's taking about 42 thousandths depth of cut. And sometimes you just can't get a chip to break. Well, see if this works. I don't know if you noticed what I was doing there. But that was 100 thousandths off the total diameter. So that was a 50 thousandths depth of cut, and it still wouldn't break. Leaving a smeared finish too. But like I say, I'm trying to break the chips more. So let's see if a 70 thousandths cut will break that chip. And what I was doing, this is the clutch down here for the feed. And I was going so far and taking the clutch off and putting it back on, off and on, to break that chip so it wasn't one huge string. And what happens is when you stop it, it starts piling the new stuff into this area, and it makes a ball. Like that, which, you know, is a lot safer than a string going everywhere. And then this one, I don't know if you can see the chips better. They don't have that jagged edge like that first one did. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I'm at 140. So that's 60, so that's 30 thousandths depth of cut. There's 40 thousandths, 50 thousandths, 60 thousandths. That's 70 thousandths depth of cut. We'll see if that'll help it. Ready? Y'all want to watch? Not even hot. Well, a little bit hot. That's a 70 thousandths depth of cut. So I took 140 thousandths over the the whole diameter. If you notice, by doing the stop start, I'm bunching it up in there so it doesn't go everywhere. If you don't have one of these, this is a thing I made a long time ago and got it all good. No, wait a minute, this one I bought. I tried to make it. It's got a V-shape rod for strength. Yeah, this one I bought. Don't remember where. Don't reach in there and grab that stuff. It will hurt you badly. This not so bad as steel, but it will still, you know, it's the little things that people get hurt on mostly. Okay, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 thousandths on depth of cut. You know, there's one little trick that might work if we put a little coolant on it. Where's my coolant? I like this little Tap Magic for aluminum. A little bit does it. My wife can't stand the smell. Let's give her a shot. That I guarantee you will be hot. What is that? 100,000th depth of cut, and it still don't want to break. Well, hampered a little bit. On an axle thing, it's easy. You can run both of these at the same time. And I don't know if you can on this one. Hey, let's find out. That one comes out. That one goes in. And hey. Let's see what we can do like that, buddy. I'm going to slow it down some. I'm roll it in here. Bob, I like you more and more, buddy. Let's see if we can make a good chamfer. think that'll work. Let's go up here and take a better one on this one to see. Now I made this one kind of longer. We'll just see what it does. Sometimes you never know till you play. Cool. I don't know if that came out, but that's a nice way to make a little chamfer on them. Okay, next operation I need to do is go ahead and, well, I don't know. Yeah, I do know. I'm going to go ahead and drill and ream it this way. And the reason is I need to counterbore the backside when I part it off. So let's do that and go on. Now, I'm going to turn the carousel around. And even though it's got a hole started, I'm going to use this bigger starting drill. Lock it in place. Run this over to its stop. Remember, I preset everything. You guys are looking back. You're not going to see what's going on. Actually, probably won't see what's going on there either. Okay, let's start her up. The reason I'm using this is I want to start with a funnel, if you will, for this S&D drill bit to go into. That way it'll help keep it centered. Yep, I gotta go around. It's gonna be too long to put in there. I wanted a shorter bit, but they just didn't have one. But it should be okay when I put it in here. Barely. I need to know how deep it's going to be. Since there's no scale for going in and out, I'm going to say 2 inches long and put a marker on the drill bit. Excuse me. Can you side guys see? I do that. Would you like me closer? I'm going to go past my mark some because I just remembered that that reamer is an adjustable one and has that set screw sticking out beyond the end of the flutes. In fact, it doesn't matter if I go all the way through. I just want to have plenty of clearance. Oh, it'd be good. I don't know about you guys, but I like the smell of that Tap Magic. All right. Let me get the reamer. Once again, we may have problems with this being too long. And we do. So, you know, you don't have a lot of bed length on a bob, and I can't make that fit into that hole that way. What would you do? You'd get a better cameraman. I know. What I'm going to do, I've got a hole through there that's on center. I could go cut this thing off, but I might need it someday. So what I'm going to do, now that I've got the main hole to ream through there, I'm going to part it off. Then I'm going to flip this around and maybe even put it on a collet so that I can get more length. That's what I'm going to do. Let's see. Let's see if I can do the part off deal with this one. These are all different tool holders that you can put on here. If I need to, I can align this one up. It's got a 1/2 inch bore, and I could stick that reamer in it because it's got a 1/2 inch shank on it. But we will see what we have to do. Right up there. I don't know if this will go all the way through. But it will go through enough. I mean, like, this is a down and dirty job. It's going to go enough to where I can finish the final part with a hacksaw. Okay, there we go. And we're going to go slow again. We'll leave it in first gear. Used to have an old South Bend Heavy that I could park. God, is it nice to park there. But be careful of aluminum, it'll stick to your bits. This is just a high-speed steel blade that's been ground. Now, as you can see on the little camera, I've now got a sharp edge back there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to swing my tools around, and dadgummit, I don't have one in here. I will in a minute. job's really made for production. You know, you put your tools in, get everything set up, get your markers. This thing's got markers everywhere. Set up and stops, and you can go to town. I took you on a visit to Ken's shop last week. Ken met me at the driveway with a big box in his hands, and he says, "Here, these are yours." And inside was about 4 million of these little brushes. Thanks, Ken. He said he had about 12 boxes more. That's what you get for buying stuff sight unseen off eBay. After seeing Ken's shop, made me think a lot about how I'm going to put things in here when I retire. Now, this shop used to be a working shop. Now all the stuff that I do that makes money is out of a trailer. And this is my retirement shop. Y'all are looking the wrong way again. What I've done is put like a threading bit in, and I'm going to stick it in this little hole right there in that slot I've cut, and cut a bevel or a chamfer on the edge before I part it off. Okay, it's not much, but you know it makes it to where it doesn't cut your fingers. And back to the other bit. Get moving around. Lock it in place, which I'm prone to forget. Go back down in with this one. Go. Lube. And back to it. Not much stroke here. Ta-da! And now I have a semi-useful piece of stock for making something else. Just like I did for this one. Now I'm going to turn it around, put it into a collet, face this off, bore it a little bit deeper in some areas to fit that narrow part, and then ream it. Or ream it first. You know, I'm not going to do all that collet work. I'm going to just go ahead and keep it in the jaws here on this drill. The reason, because I got all this lined up perfectly with that point on this drill chuck, and who knows what could happen if you change something. So I'm just going to do this to it, and it should be in the same alignment. This looks to be a nice little chuck I got with it. And it makes the video shorter. Okay. You guys seasick yet? Okay, we're going to bump it back up in speed, go to second range. Here. I like that. Okay, let's see if my trick of changing it around helps me with my reamer problem. Look at that, still not enough. All right. Let's go plan number 3. Bob's got a spindle lock. Put Bob down on, or the chuck down on the bottom. I got a 4 down there also. Now what I need is a 1-inch collet, 15/16, 31/32, 1 inch. There we go. That seems to take care of my reamer problem. To the stop. Lube it up good. We'll slow it down. Thing jumped a little bit because it's sticking out so far and that bar is flexible, and it may be part of the reason, but I held it over there and got the flutes. It's got a little bevel on the flute, and I got it centered in the bore and went on through. So let's see how that worked. gonna have to stop here soon. It's so dang hot in here without the air conditioner going. I'm sweating. You don't want me sweating, do you? Run this through there again. I put a little ridge on it with that reamer. With the end of this tip there, made a little ridge. I want to get that out of there. Not worried about that because I got to make it deeper in that area to fit that bore. What I want to do is run a rag through there and then see if the barrel of the laser will go through there. Now this is the laser barrel. I have to take that battery cap off. That is a press fit. That's going to work good. Having camera problems. This is the part that I got finished. You can see it there. It's all ready to go. No sharp edges to cut yourself. This is the laser, and I've taken the back cap off. The back cap's got the button to turn it on. And basically, I'm going to hold it upside down and then slide that on. I went back after trying to put it together and reamed it a little bit more, adjusted the reamer, because I want to be able to twist this in there very easily. And I don't think that barrel of this $13 laser was concentric, maybe egg-shaped a little bit. So that gave it enough to allow me to do this. I can now put that button in here, hold it in place, and screw this in. Screw that cap on. Now that cap's bigger and it won't allow it to come out. And there it is. The button is recessed in there so you can put it flat against the face of this sensor. Sensor's got a ball mount on here, and it can be doing like this and adjusted in lots of ways. Now I'll just walk up to it, put this on there and just hold it like this. As a quick check, I can see where the laser beam is hitting onto the reflector. If it's not, I just loosen a few screws and I can easily use it to line it up. I think it's going to be a handy little tool. This video is getting long, so I'm going to end it here. I'm not going back out to the gate. I think you're smart enough to understand what's going on. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you much. Come back. I could tape this to Don's forehead. No, he'd probably shoot me with it. Oh well.